I'm Mike Reed. I'm Dean of the College of Health and Human Performance at the University of Florida. Our college is privileged to have the Department of Tourism, Hospitality, and Event Management, and also the Eric Friedheim Tourism Institute as part of our community. That makes us particularly sensitive to and interested in the tourism industry and the hospitality industry, especially as it relates to our hometown, to Gainesville. And so I'm pleased today to be talking with Mayor Harvey Ward from Gainesville. Mayor Ward, welcome to campus.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your willingness to chat with us about this very important topic. I think what really stimulated our interest in pulling you in and getting your wisdom is all the activity around the airport with the airport expansion. And I wondered if you could talk with us a little bit about how that expansion is going and what you see as the impact of that expansion on the city.
Sure, happy to talk about that, and thanks for the invitation. Always a pleasure to be here. We like to remind people that while the Gator Nation is everywhere, its capital is right here in Gainesville. So we're excited to be able to work with the Airport Authority and with the state and federal partners to grow the airport to make it easier for people to get in and out of the capital of the Gator Nation. It's critical to be able to do that. I've been here all my life, so I remember our airport as being, essentially a couple of portable buildings that somehow back in the 70s served big Eastern jets.
Really?
But with deregulation, all those kind of went away. And we have bit by bit built back up to what is, I believe, a very strong regional airport at this point. Yeah. We don't serve any international flights, but we've certainly been able to bring in grant funding and just lots of really good thinking around the airport itself and the industrial park to make it into the sort of thing that is attractive to flyers from all over. Mm-hmm. It is. We like to think, more attractive than driving 2 or 3 hours to a larger airport. There's some trade-offs,
yep.
But one of the trade-offs is you can be, taxiing down the runway before you could ever possibly get through security at most of those other airports.
It's very true. And the security you go through at the airport is so pleasant.
Yes.
Visitors are always surprised by that.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, the latest impact on the airport is improving parking there.
Yep.
For the longest time, it was only service parking and not enough surface parking. The paved parking is and was decades old, and so many people ended up parking in the grass areas, mm-hmm. which was just not a pleasant thing. If you're trying to get someone to be interested in moving their business to Gainesville, or try to get someone to come work at the University of Florida or elsewhere here in our community, and they need to park their car in a grass parking lot, that is maybe not our best step forward.
Give it to you.
So at this point now, we've got a state-of-the-art parking garage with lots of bells and whistles and covered walkway into the airport, which, again, if you didn't see the airport from the 70s, it doesn't mean a lot. But I remember that, and this feels like the future.
As much as it rains here, and as hot as the sun is
yes.
here, a little shade goes a long way.
Yes.
So you mentioned about businesses. Do you see this airport as something that could really help expand the local economy? Is it likely to attract businesses here?
Absolutely. One of the complaints about, one of the reasons that people have for not moving here in the first place, bringing their businesses
yes.
here, expanding their business, is that it's hard to get good flights in and out. Mm-hmm. As we expand out the amenities of the airport, we're also seeing traffic through the airport increase. This past year, there were more people flying in and out of Gainesville than ever in Gainesville history. So we know that we have more air traffic here. And the more traffic there is, the more flights there will be.
Yes.
That's just how the airlines work.
Sure.
And we at the City of Gainesville have passed a policy that if anyone is traveling on city business, they have to use GNV, have to fly GNV, unless the total cost of flying somewhere else would be 25% greater than, mm-hmm. than the ticket here. Mm-hmm. And that's the total cost. Your time has to be worth something.
Yep.
And we believe that that helps build traffic. to and through GNV. We hope that we can get participation from the University of Florida, from other institutional partners in that same line of thinking, because the more of us that fly in and out of Gainesville, the more opportunity there will be to do that. And the more flights there are, and the more direct flights we can attract, the more likely folks are to feel good about moving their business here.
Direct flights are really important.
Yes.
Especially as the winter comes on, the possibility of getting flight delays,
Right.
something that we all shiver about.
Yes.
But GNV is so convenient, and as you said, more and more flights are available through there, so it's terrific.
Right. And we've invested a lot. Both the University of Florida and the City of Gainesville have invested so much in Innovation District and other opportunities to grow business here in our community. That last stumbling block of difficult flying is something we realized we needed to pay attention to, and I believe we're going around that corner pretty quickly.
Well, speaking of infrastructure and development, I believe it's west of the airport. There it used to be the old fairgrounds, and now there's something being built out there that looks big, but I don't know what it is. Can you help us?
It's south of the airport, but yeah, that's it
okay.
used to be the Alachua County Fairgrounds.
Yep.
And back in 2018, I got a call when I was a city commissioner from a friend of a friend who was connected to the right people at an Army Reserve facility in South Carolina, and they were looking at the time for opportunities to open new Army Reserve supply depots, because at the time the one in Columbia, South Carolina, was the closest to any Army Reserve facility in Florida.
Really?
We all thought that was
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
and said, well, we do have this piece of land that's opening, because the county had already decided to move the fairgrounds at the time, and that's what that's going to be when it's eventually finished. Not a week goes by that people don't call me and say, what happened to all the trees? And I say, well, you will have to talk to the Army Corps of Engineers about that, because that's out of my control.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually, sometime in the next 2 or 3 years, we expect that to be a completed supply depot for the Army Reserve to supply Camp Blanding,
Yes.
the closest airport to that, 25, 30 miles away from Gainesville.
Will you be seeing more military flights in and out of the airport as a result?
Probably not, but there will be more flights with parts and private personnel to maintain Army vehicles, Army Reserve vehicles that will be in and out of that depot.
Yeah.
So most of the flights are going to be private personnel and supplies for those, but there won't be a lot of military flights coming in and out.
Keep an eye on that. I'll be interested to see how it plays out.
So interestingly, the airport was originally built to be an Army airport. And after World War II, it was ceded the property was ceded to the city of Gainesville, which we still maintain ownership of the land at the airport. The city owns the land, the airport authority owns everything on top of the land.
Really?
So any grants have to flow through the city of Gainesville. It's a complicated but interesting arrangement. So there's the reserve depot that's being built just to the south, and just to the north is lots of private aviation.
Yes.
Lots of
Yep.
private aviation in and out of there. There were some articles about heavy private traffic for football weekend recently. So it's interesting to see that continue to take hold. And then just north of that is the Airport Industrial Park, which most people don't think about if they don't work there. But we have a couple of retail distribution facilities that exist back there, logistics facilities. There's a chemical company that operates back there. There's lots of land available to grow out that industrial park. So that's one of the things we've been working with Gainesville Chamber of Commerce to remind people that is available, and it's adjacent to the airport. And I believe that over the next decade that's going to grow drastically. And we'll see a lot more industry happening back there.
Well, I don't know about other folks in town, but I wasn't very aware of the industrial park back there and all the activity that's going on, so it's fascinating.
Yeah, there's, food distribution, retail distribution facilities, lots of interesting things. I would I would recommend just taking a drive through there. You'd be surprised at what all exists
I'll do
right
it.
there. Yeah.
I'll do it. You know, a minute ago you mentioned about moving the fairgrounds, and that brings me to a question that a lot of folks in our college care about, which is sort of the entertainment and activities and infrastructure around that oftentimes attract tourists in terms of festivals or fairs or things. So could you talk with us a little bit about how that infrastructure may be evolving? For example, where did the fairgrounds go? And also out at Celebration Point, there's been a lot of conversations about that indoor athletic facility. So from your perspective as a mayor, how do you feel like we're doing in that arena, and what do you see in the future?
So not only in the city of Gainesville, but regionally, within just a few miles, there's a lot going on. We are in the city, certainly the city of Gainesville, programs, Bo Diddley Park, or Bo Diddley Plaza rather, and a variety of other things. Downtown Fest is coming up here soon, and that brings thousands of people and millions of dollars to downtown Gainesville, along with many other festivals that we have throughout the year. There are arts festivals and a variety of things that happen in downtown proper, but just a little ways south of downtown proper, South Main Station and the Heartwood facility is really booming. I mean, they're bringing all kinds of great musical acts to Gainesville for outdoor and wonderful indoor concerts. Small concerts, but really interesting national touring acts that are coming to downtown. And then east of Gainesville, there's some folks working on the Wildflowers Music Park out near Melrose, just a few miles outside of town.
Sure,
But that will be available for larger music festivals, and anything that is near Gainesville is good for Gainesville, in my opinion. So it doesn't have to be in town for all of us to benefit from that. So I expect there'll be lots of larger national acts available for us to all enjoy out at Wildflowers pretty soon.
I was going to ask, when will that be ready? Do you have any idea?
My guess is that within about a year and a half, they'll start having shows out there. The county commission just gave some approvals, or didn't get in the way of approvals, I guess is the way to think about it. And so I expect there'll be some really great shows available out there, some great festivals. To the west, of course, Celebration Point has some really interesting things going on consistently, but we all invested through tourist development dollars in the athletic facility that is out there, and I think that's going to for many decades be a real attraction as we move forward.
It's a fantastic facility.
It really is.
Gone through some management changes recently, is that right?
Yeah, and I'm not 100% certain where they are on all of that, but the county is ultimately responsible for that facility, and I'm confident that they will work through whatever challenges there are, because it's a great facility. I mean, the building is really built for what it needs to be, which is primarily an attractor for youth sports programs regionally and even nationally.
There was a big track and field event, right? Big Masters track and field event this year for the first time.
The World Masters event,
That's
which brought a lot of folks to the community. It's really been good for Gainesville in general.
That's fabulous. I had another question also about as you begin to grow these specific facilities, like for example the music festival, do you see that that's going to grow the infrastructure around it, food and beverages, hospitality, people have to stay someplace? Do you see the hotel industry continuing to expand? Are there going to be more places for people on home game weekends?
Yes, I think that will absolutely be the case.
Right.
So our big draw is always going to be 6 or 7 home football games and Gator Nationals. Those are always going to be the things that bring the most people here, because those are the biggest facilities. But that's not the end of things. You go back 20, 30 years ago, a game weekend Gainesville was a different place on a game weekend, right? But that really isn't so much the case anymore. We're a mid-sized city now, any way you slice it, and when there's a game weekend or Gator Nationals, you notice a few more folks in town, but it is not the stop everything and get out of the way of traffic sort of thing that it used to be. which means we're growing up as a community.
Yeah.
And I think that's very positive. But yes, as we have more festivals and more, particularly as there are more of them east of Gainesville,
Yes.
you will see more hotels near downtown,
Yep.
and that means near campus as well. And there will continue to be some growth of that out west by I-75. But I think you will see continued, and in the last 15 years, we've seen the Hampton Inn pop up in downtown, followed by the Hyatt just 2.5 years ago. I think there will be more of those sorts of, if not upscale, more upscale hotels than the interstate type hotels.
Yeah.
And they'll be there, available to serve folks on festival weekends and game weekends.
Great news.
Yeah.
Since we're on the topic of the university and university activities, town-gown relations are always a source of interest for everybody in town. How do you feel like Gainesville and the University of Florida are partnering with each other now? What do you see as issues where we are really working effectively in the future? What do you expect us to be hearing about in that area?
So the best partnerships that we have, town-gown partnerships, tend to be like this one. I mean, they tend to be just small opportunities where we can get together and promote what each other are doing. And I'm always keenly aware that everybody who works at the city or at the University of Florida, every student at the University of Florida, even if you don't live in the city of Gainesville, which most do, but even folks who don't, you're working here. The city of Gainesville is responsible for you. Even students, by the way, almost all students are city of Gainesville residents. So we are all responsible for each other. And the University of Florida can only be as great as the city of Gainesville allows it to be. The city of Gainesville will only be as great as the University of Florida allows it to be. We have to work together. And on a department by department basis, we're very, very good at that. We have a ways to go at the higher levels. I mean, we honestly, just speaking candidly, we have work to do.
Yeah.
And I am in regular communication with other SEC mayors. We have an SEC mayors advocacy group, and I'm envious of the relationships that some other SEC mayors have with their host universities. And I'm confident we can make some of those same opportunities happen.
I wonder if, it's certainly been true that there's been a lot of change in the university administration over the last few years. And with that change have come changes in reporting structure, and the folks who are occupying particular roles have evolved. Do you think that now that we have a new interim president and we're moving toward a search for a permanent president, do you think that sort of stability will provide opportunities for greater
Absolutely.
communication?
Yeah. I mean, when there's a clear line of reporting, it's always easier for us to know who to call. And it's easier for everyone on campus to take a deep breath and say, okay, well, we know who's in charge. It's just easier to move forward that way. And that's certainly not that's to throw no shade, as the kids were saying 10 years ago, at anyone, but it's just the reality that stability matters.
Yeah.
And we learned that the hard way at the city of Gainesville. When I first came into City Hall in 2017, we didn't have a lot of stability. We had to build that over time. And we are in a very stable place now, and it is a night and day difference. When you come to work and you're not worried about the stability of the organization, you can focus on your work. And that is going to be true for the University of Florida as well.
That makes sense.
And when we can all focus on our work, then we can remind each other that not only are we responsible for each other, but we're responsible for the massive investments that have been made over the years by the state, by the university, by the city, in things like Innovation Square and all the other places around Gainesville, Innovation District, where tremendous investment has been made, and now it's time to take the next steps in that investment, because we put the infrastructure there. Now we need to bring in everything that goes on top of the infrastructure.
It's a great lead into my last question. So you've been very patient with me about these nuts and bolts kind of questions about what's going on.
I love the nuts and bolts.
Well, but you're also a visionary. You got your job because you're a person who has vision for the future. And I would really like to hear you talk a little bit about where you think the city's going and what do you think some key opportunities are for us in the near term.
So I want us to really lean into to the arts in this community. We have a tremendous history in the arts, and I see some growth opportunities for us in really seizing that past and reminding everyone what a spectacular community this is for creatives.
Yep.
When you people a community with creatives, and this is, it's standard, it is well understood with folks who play in cities, that if you bring in lots of creative folks, the engineers and financiers follow. We know that this is a community, again, with a tremendous history in the arts, not only musically, but in so many other ways. I'll give you an anecdote. I was hosting a group of mayors here for a small conference about a year ago, and we were walking around downtown so I could showcase some of the investments we'd made. We were at South Main Station at the Lynx bookstore, and completely unplanned, out the door as we're walking in comes Jack Davis, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning author.
Yes.
Who's also a professor here at the University of
Yes.
Florida. And I said, after talked to Jack for a moment, and after he had walked away, I said to the other mayors, that was a Pulitzer Prize winning author, and I didn't plan this, I swear. So we go inside, and of course, the store is partly owned by Lauren Groff, who is a National Book Award finalist and all that. And Lauren happened to be there, and I chatted with her. She walked away, and I said, so that's a National Book Award finalist.
Well planned.
It was entirely unplanned, but that's the kind of community this is.
Yes.
And when you have those resources,
Yeah.
there's so much to build on.
Yeah.
So we want to build on that, and I really want to go, I don't want to say go after, but to do a more intentional job of reaching out to businesses that ought to be here. Not only regionally, but they're international companies that could greatly benefit by being in the innovation district, that could benefit from an investment at the airport industrial park, from investments in East Gainesville. There is opportunity here. We're going to grow. There's no question about that. I think that, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I think that we're going to see the coasts shrink. And as people leave the coast in some degree, I mean, there are only so many times you can, muck out your living room before you say, I'm done with the beach. And as those folks, look for other opportunities, they're going to move inland and upland.
Yes.
And that means Gainesville.
Yeah.
So we're going to grow. The question is, do we plan that growth, or do we just let it happen? I believe we should plan it. I think we should take a good look at our community and say, where and what does growth mean? And how do we respond to that? How do we prepare for it? And one of the ways, I believe, is by making sure there are lots of very good jobs here.
Yes.
And that we can, attract those businesses that will provide those great jobs. We're here to train them already. Santa Fe College, University of Florida, our school system are here to do the workforce prep necessary. But we need to bring those investments to Gainesville. And again, there are no great cities that do not have great arts.
Yep.
So we have great arts to build on. We need to lean into that and make this the kind of community that has been successful for other places like Austin and places like that, except we probably want to plan it a little better.
As a native Texan, I understand what you mean by that. Thank you so much. Mayor Ward, thank you for being with us today. This has been just a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it for the invitation.
Appreciate it. You guys.